In a world where power hides behind polished smiles and justice bends for the highest bidder, one man is about to shatter the illusion. Marcus Langley isn't just a lawyer, he's a storm in a tailored suit. A Harvard-educated legal genius with a razor-sharp mind and a past that fuels his fire. He doesn't play by the rules, he rewrites them. Because behind the handcuffs and the smirks of those who underestimate him, he's already 5 moves ahead. When a corrupt system frames him for murder, Marcus does the unthinkable. He lets them. In raw defiance, where the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun, but the truth. This isn't just a courtroom drama. This is a high-stakes game of deception, revenge, and when Marcus Langley finally takes off his lawyer badge, hell follows with him. And leave a like and a comment, Let's get back to the story. Mr. Langley was found at the scene with the murder weapon. This is an open and shut case. Let us know where you are watching from, and what time you found this video. Mr. Langley, your attorney will speak for you. Marcus pulled out a small badge that was shining brightly, which caused the bailiff to tense up and hover his hand near his weapon. There were a lot of people in the courtroom, and the atmosphere was tense. The jury had already decided what they would do. The prosecution appeared to be smug, and the judge appeared to be in a position where he would rather be anywhere else. There was a tall, broad-shouldered black man named Marcus Langley sitting at the defense table. He was dressed in a sharp navy suit. The difference was that he wasn't just representing a client this time. Marcus was met with a glare from the victim's family, who had tears in their eyes. Even his own attorney, who had been assigned by the court, groaned and shuffled papers, as if he were already writing an appeal for a case that was already hopeless. In the eyes of those who were not trained, he appeared to be nothing more than another defendant, a mere statistic in a system that had already disregarded him. He'd allowed himself to be arrested to expose the scheme from the inside. This contains recorded confessions, falsified evidence logs, and proof that Detective Harlan Riggs orchestrated this entire frame-up. And now, with the courtroom in disarray, he released his last bombshell. There was a man with slick hair and a condescending smirk who was the prosecutor. He was leaning against his podium. "Your Honor, the evidence is clear." Throughout the gallery, murmurings could be heard. Notes were blurred by the reporters. Next, Marcus got to his feet. Detective Harlan Riggs was incarcerated, the corrupt unit was destroyed, and Marcus Langley's name was everywhere. On the other hand, Marcus was not smiling. Not only did he triumph, but he also altered the course of the game. In point of fact, he stated, adopting a tone that was composed yet authoritative, "I would like to address the court." An unknown number rang his phone, and it buzzed. "Justice isn't just about punishing the guilty," he remarked. "It's about freeing the innocent. You think Riggs was the end? He was just a pawn." A solitary file appeared on his desktop. It was closed and could not be located. He pressed the button. With a grimace, the judge, who is the victim? The most important witness from Marcus's previous case, the one who guaranteed that they would testify against Riggs. Marcus dug his hand into the pocket of his breast. This was no longer simply about corrupt law enforcement officers. This was a matter of position. Marcus said, "I'm not the defendant," as he flipped the badge over onto the table. "I'm the lawyer." The atmosphere in the room erupted. Marcus Langley wasn't just any lawyer. He was one of the most brilliant legal brains in the nation. Harvard-educated defense counsel who had spent years taking on high-profile cases. Not in court. Out on his own turf. It was a covert operation. On the other hand, Marcus had a strategy. For months, Marcus had been investigating a crooked police squad that had been planting evidence on innocent black males. The surveillance cameras were looped by Elena. Naturally, Darius eliminated the guards without causing any harm to them. What about Naomi? While she was causing a commotion by accidentally dropping wine on Kingsley's wife, she was the diversion that caused the situation. "Your Honor, the real killer is in this room, and he's wearing a badge." Before the startled judge could respond, Marcus took out a flash drive and gave it to the bailiff. As for Riggs, only a minor participant in a much larger game than everyone else. The prosecutor's face drained of color. The detective in question rushed for the door only to be halted by federal investigators who had been waiting outside. As the courtroom deteriorated into shouting and scrambling, Marcus looked to the gallery, meeting eyes with the family of the true victim. The case garnered national news. Officers were arrested. Wrongful convictions were reversed. "Are you Marcus?" Mostly due to the fact that they believed he was simply another black guy under arrest. The moment he demonstrated that he was the most deadly person in the room in the media, it was referred to as the trial of the decade. Marcus Langley's name was everywhere, including on CNN, the New York Times, and even in a piece on 60 Minutes. He proceeded to dig. 3 weeks after the trial, Marcus was sitting in his office in the downtown area, the city lights flashing outside his windows that reached from floor to ceiling. The person on the other end of the line stated in a raspy voice, "They are coming for you." A dead end was reached on the line before Marcus could even react. Then, the screen of his computer began to flicker. The video was played. The image depicted Senator Richard Kingsley, who was on the verge of becoming the next governor, standing over a dead corpse in a parking garage with relatively low lighting. It was last night when the video was recorded. The temperature of Marcus's blood dropped. He was aware of the actions that he needed to do. On the other hand, he couldn't accomplish anything by himself. In addition to having a personal vengeance against Kingsley, Elena Vasquez was a hacker who was capable of breaking through any firewall. Marcus was owed his freedom by Darius Big D. Carter, a former Special Forces sharpshooter who had to be released. During the course of many years, Naomi Price, an investigative journalist, had been pursuing Kingsley's fraudulent organization. Marcus stated, "We take him down," as he spread schematics of Kingsley's mansion over the table between them. The mansion that Kingsley owned was a fortress, complete with motion detectors, armed guards, and panic rooms. After infiltrating the estate, while posing as waitstaff for the senator's high-profile fundraiser, the squad succeeded in their mission. During this time, Marcus managed to sneak inside the senator's private study. He was successful in locating what he was seeking for, which was a safe hidden under a Washington image. There was more than simply money or jewels inside. The item in question was a ledger, the names, the dates, the payments. Kingsley was not just a sleazy individual, but he was also in charge of a whole network of law enforcement officers, judges, and politicians. While Marcus was on his phone, he took some pictures. This was plenty to bury Kingsley for all of eternity. The door opened with a groaning sound. It was clear that he was holding a firearm. Kingsley, who was standing in the doorway with a smug smile on his face, said, "Mr. Langley, are you still looking for something?" Marcus did not show any signs of flinching. "Actually, Senator, I found it." "You really think you can walk out of here with that?" A smirk appeared on Kingsley's face. Marcus gave a smirk. "I don't have to." For the reason, because Naomi's live broadcast went viral at precisely the correct moment, revealing to the whole world exactly what Marcus had just discovered. In a fit of wrath, Kingsley's face contorted. The gun was raised by him. Splash, not capable of killing. The way they had planned it out. However, Marcus was not the one who fell. An arrest was made of Kingsley. It was the ledger that resulted in scores of prosecutions. "Are you Marcus?" The photograph had been taken by Darius, who was standing on the rooftop across the street. Kingsley passed out while wailing, and the sound of police sirens could be heard in the distance. It was a scandal that shocked the country. He was standing on the steps of the courtroom, as reporters yelled questions at him. "What's next for you, Mr. Langley?" Marcus made some adjustments to his tie, as a smirk slowly grew over his complexion. "Justice isn't done yet." Shockwaves were sent across the nation as a result of Senator Kingsley's resignation. But Marcus Langley was aware that the corruption ran deeper. A name that had been rumored to exist in prestigious circles, but had never been proved, was disclosed by the ledger. Luther Van Doren, a generous person. "We were in a war, be the master of puppets." The safe house was a web of corruption, with Van Doren at the core of it. Every notable player would be present during the event. These words were said by Elena. But he's got one weakness, his ego. His empire included private military contracts, media firms, and over 50% of the members of Congress. He was a generous benefactor who supported educational institutions and possessed a grin that was so perfected that it could fool cameras. In the billions, as well as Marcus's next objective. Mercenaries who are armed, there are no rules governing extradition. Even though he was wealthy, Van Doren was inaccessible to everybody. Marcus, on the other hand, had glimpsed into the shadows. The fingerprints of Van Doren were found on every controversy that was recorded in the ledger. including narcotics trafficking that was disguised as assistance shipments, judges that were purchased like stocks, and even rumors of attempt to manipulate elections. After then, this was no longer just a case. Within a safe home with low lighting and walls covered with strings and photographs, Marcus's crew reunited. In the past, she had gained access to Van Doren's childhood files. With her fingers speeding over the keyboard, Elena continued, "We can't hack him. We can't ambush him. The man is a ghost." As well as a guy who had an uncanny resemblance to Marcus's father. The philanthropy summit of the century was going to be presided over by Van Doren the next week. The president is included in this. Now Marcus was aware of the reason. Marcus fixed his gaze on the invitation that was shown on the screen. "Then we are SVP. A paradise with a sinister secret" was the location of the summit, which took place on Van Doren's private island. Buildings buried underneath. A disguise was necessary in order to get access, and even Van Doren's artificial intelligence security was unable to decipher it. Marcus transformed into James Whitmore, a hedge fund manager from the United Kingdom. Elena pretended to be his assistant while concealing her hacking gear behind a tablet that was covered in diamonds. During his infiltration of the security squad, Darius's visage was transformed to the point where it could pass facial recognition. And Naomi, no, she was not present. "It is official." He made a hand toward the island and said, "You are impressive. But this is my world. You can't win here." Due to the fact that Naomi had gone black, she was digging out Van Doren's background in Johannesburg, which is where everything started. Marcus managed to sneak inside Van Doren's private study when the champagne was flowing and the millionaires were sharing laughter. After then, his earpiece made a crackling sound. The tone of Naomi's voice was strained as she said, "Marcus, you need to see this." "Are you Marcus?" "Photographs?" Photographs appeared on Marcus's mobile device. "My father's name was Elijah Langley. Say it." "This is a youthful Van Doren, a jail located in South Africa." There was a departure of the president, and people throughout the globe woke up. They would see headlines that read, "Billionaire criminal mastermind exposed." He didn't just know your dad, he killed him. The blood of Marcus became as cold as ice. His father, who was a journalist who was investigating Van Doren's first illicit weapons trade, had disappeared throughout the last several decades. At this point, justice was no longer the only concern. This was an act of vengeance. As Van Doren entered the room, he smiled as if he had been anticipating the arrival of Marcus. "Ah, Mr. Whitmore, or should I say Langley." Marcus did not show any signs of flinching. "You knew I'd come." She poured 2 glasses and said, "I counted on it," Van Doren said. One of Marcus's phones was placed on the table, one that is life. In the image, Naomi was seen standing in a warehouse in Johannesburg while clutching the original firearms ledger belonging to Van Doren. Marcus said, "The game is over." When Van Doren smiled, it disappeared. The season of fall disarray ensued after that point in time. Guests on the island were thrown into a state of terror when Elena set off the island's emergency sirens. It was Darius who destroyed the electricity grid. There was no punch that he threw. Instead of speaking, he just leaned in close and murmured. A furious expression appeared on Van Doren's face, just as Interpol arrived with their weapons drawn. During the time that they were dragging him away, Van Doren yelled threats. However, Marcus kept his position on the cliffs of the island and watched the dawn. He was accompanied by Naomi. What now? At the horizon, Marcus took a brief glance. "We keep going. System's still broken." Later on, his phone began to ring. He had not heard the voice of Marcus in many years, and it said, "Marcus, ... we need to talk about your mother."